For the past few months, Russia has been conducting an operation of military pressure on Ukraine. Delegations are underway between NATO nations and Russia upon fears an invasion of Ukraine will take place. As the world holds its breath, members of the Ukrainian-Canadian community express their thoughts on this ever-evolving situation. This interview was conducted on January 29th, 2022.
My name is Valerii Pasko, and I'm a Ukrainian community member in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I came to Canada almost 11 years ago now. I'm an active member of a community. I'm a co-publishers of Ukrainian Winnipeg Magazine. The magazine has been on hold for the last almost 2 years now due to COVID reasons, but before that we were pretty active. I used to organize different events, cultural events, music concerts. We invited some guests from Ukraine. Right now, there is over 100,000 Russian troops, Russian soldiers at the Ukrainian border. They're pretty much ready to attack. From what I hear, the latest. They're almost ready, and obviously everyone in Ukraine is very concerned about this situation. Some people are, some people are afraid. Some people are just there's some people that are indifferent, but mostly yes, Ukrainian people are very concerned about the situation. My parents still live in Kiev, which is a capital city of Ukraine. Where to start? It's really the issue goes really deep and way back in the past. So in the last few hundred years, Ukraine was under Russian control. The territory of Ukraine was most of territory of Ukraine was under Russian control, and after the Soviet Union fell apart in 1991, Ukrainian people expressed their desire to become an independent nation, which actually they were expressing for all those hundreds of years, but Russians were able to put down all the destroy all the desire of Ukrainian people to become independent. So anyways, after the fall of Soviet Union in 1991, Ukraine chose its own independent way of living, and close, as Ukraine is a close neighbor of Russia. Two nations were still going sort of side by side. There were several controversial episodes, but for first few years of independence in the early 90s, mid 90s, the situation was pretty stable. And as the I guess as we go forward, the somewhere around 2004, the situation started to shift. In late 90s, Russia got the new president, Vladimir Putin. He, despite his promises of continue democratic path for his nation, he started to switch more and more into authoritarian rule, and basically that was not what Ukrainian people were supporting, right? And so back in 2004, Ukraine had its first revolution. It's called Orange Revolution, when the president, there was this pretty large falsifications during the presidential elections in 2004, and the pro-Russian president that was elected, Ukrainians basically choose to they would okay. Let's put it this way: Ukrainians went on the streets to protest those falsified elections back in 2004, and that sort of started our whole history of trying to drift away from Russian influence, and it continued back in 2013 after the next president. It wasn't the next after. So in 2010, a pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych, was elected, and eventually it led to a revolution of dignity in 2013 when peaceful protesters went on the streets to protest his policies. The main reason was that they didn't sign the what was it, the economic anyways, so the protesters went on the street to protest his policies, and eventually that led to him resigning, and he escaped the country. He fled the Ukraine to Russia. But those events basically started the war in eastern Ukraine. Russia, with the support of Russian troops, so-called rebels, they took over a certain region of eastern Ukraine, and Crimea. First it was Crimea, and then Russia started the war in the eastern Ukraine. But what's important, since that time, since like 2010, even since 2004, there has been a huge shift in Ukrainian culture. Ukrainians became, since 2004, Ukraine started, drifting more and more away from Russia culturally, despite, and basically after Russia invaded eastern Ukraine in 2013, people of Ukraine basically saw what our neighbor is capable of doing, what our Russia's intentions were. So that forced even more people to, start drifting away more from Russia, from Russian culture. There were several important events that happened a few years ago, like in 2019, Ukraine finally got its own independent Orthodox Church, because for centuries, the basically three-quarters of population of Ukraine associate. They call the three-quarters of population of Ukraine call themselves Orthodox Christian, Orthodox Christians. So this is important. It was a very important step for Ukraine to finally get its own independent church, because all those years since the beginning of independence, Ukrainian church was basically, it is like a part of a Russian Orthodox Church. So that's that. Now, many people after events in eastern Ukraine, after Russia invaded eastern Ukraine and annexed Crimea, they started also switching to Ukrainian language, because back in the day, it was. More people preferred, not more people, but there were many people speaking speaking Russian, just because back in the day, in the days of Soviet Union, Russian was more of a language of elites, and the Ukrainian language was more present in smaller towns and villages. But now, in the recent like 10 years, situation changed dramatically. Much more people are switching from Russian to Ukrainian. Just there's Ukrainians many Ukrainians doesn't want to associate themselves with Russia anymore. They doesn't want to do anything with Russia anymore. They have different values. They see what is the state of human rights. What's the state of human rights in Russia? What's the state of freedom of speech in Russia? That was the state of women's right. All that, and they feel that European values are much more closer to them compared to Russia, to Russian values, and they just want to live peaceful, normal life. But unfortunately, as we see, Russia doesn't want to lose control over Ukraine. That's how this whole situation started. Ukraine expressed its desire to eventually join NATO. It's not a question of months or even years. It's like a long-term idea, but Ukraine is moving forward with it, and officially Russia is concerned about Ukraine. Officially, Russia is concerned about its security in the region, because they think that they believe that having NATO so close to their borders would potentially bring some escalation or whatever war to their doorsteps. However, I think another important reason is that Vladimir Putin, being a authoritarian leader, he has to show Russians, the power, his powers, and if you look back into history of Russia after the fall of Soviet Union, every second year they were involved into some sort of war. In either it's a former Soviet Republic or Syria or something, but Russia is involved into different military conflicts, and I think it's for them. It's one of the ways one of the ways of their politicians to show citizens that they're strong, their power is strong, the country is strong, and if you stay with us, everything's gonna be stable, just the way it has been. But the country
over here, we're protected by oceans. Like here in North America, we haven't experienced like potential like invasion pressures or wars on our border at all. So like it's a almost completely alien situation.
I spoke to my parents. They are concerned about situation. Everybody is concerned there. The thing is that Ukrainians, if Russia decide to invade, Ukrainians will fight. Right? We have a very strong national idea and national spirit, and there was I think there was a poll at the end of last year, and 1/3 of Ukrainians said that in case of invasion they will fight. 1/3 of population, right? And it was the end of last year. It wasn't such a hot topic back then. So it's it seems like at this point, just full-scale invasion would be such a massive mistake, and it will turn out eventually it's such a huge blow to Russian rulers that it doesn't seem. I mean, I don't want to like say anything about this, but I hope it's not gonna happen. You can't tell what's in the heads of Russian rulers at this moment. But another besides a full-scale invasion, it could be just something that they're already trying, something they're already doing, which is cyber attacks, right? The panic, they can try influence the economy in the region, right? So just when you know that, your economy getting worse, you have a potential threat, you have a threat, a couple hundred kilometers away from your city or from your town at the border with Russia. So it just doesn't work well it doesn't do any goods for people's mental health. So that could be one of the Russians' potential strategies on how to handle the situation.
Do you think world leaders are handling this situation correctly? Like Canada's, what was it, $120 million in armaments? The sanctions and things that world leaders are potentially imposing on Russia if they go through with it. Do you think this is the correct course of action?
Support from the world is definitely very important. If Ukraine was left alone to deal with this, that would be a different situation, different story. Even though we have to admit that within the last 10 years, since a little bit less than 10 years since Russian annexed Crimea, Ukrainian army, has gone through a lot of upgrades. It's not the army that was 10 years ago. It's much stronger, but you still cannot compete with the Russian army, which is like, I think it's rated second or maybe third. They say it's second after US. So the support of European partners, of states, Canada, is very important. I don't think Ukraine really needs international soldiers to come and fight for Ukrainians. Ukrainians are capable to defend themselves, but weapons that states are currently delivering to Ukraine would be a great help, and is a great help. Modern defensive weapons is something that we need. And then, pressure on all fronts, political, economical, is also important, even though Russians trying to play it that they don't care about economic pressure and everything, but it does work. It does work. And when if the worst forecasts will come true, it's going to get much worse for them, and they will affect the livelihoods of their people, right?
I guess that's the real struggle when you're dealing with a country that's very authoritarian, have control over everything, but at the same time you also don't want to villainize like the everyday person.
Absolutely, and that and that's true. Like I'm sure, despite despite the Russian TV, despite having all the propaganda on Russian TV, there are like many people that they don't want war. They don't see any profit in it. They don't see any purpose in the war. Some of them still believe that the Ukrainians are their friends, and which we are, right? We like we don't want to fight with anyone. Ukrainians, we just want to live peacefully, be good neighbors in their country. But politics and imperial ambitions of Russian leaders just drawing us to this. They drawing us on the brink of war. And another thing to remember, like what is we always we talk about armies, and we talk about like economies and territory, and when we speak about war. But like later, when the the war is over, you have all these injured people, you have all this broken families, broken lives. Back when Russian-backed separatists started the war in eastern Ukraine in 2013, and a lot of people, all over the world used to send collect money and send money to Ukraine, to these soldiers that got injured in the war at the wartime. And it's not like the show in movies, they shoot the guy 5 times and he got a few scars. It's like you're lacking limbs, right? You don't have an arm. Your life,
people's lives become a living
exactly
hell.
And it's not like dozens of people, it's thousands of people, right? And so you completely break life of thousands of people, in addition to everything else, in addition to the people you killed, houses you destroyed. So it's just a terrible thing.